There's a way to change the name of it also.
I'm sorry?
There's a way to change the name of it right over here. So I'll speak to that. So.
Oh, it'll be me because I'm logged
Okay,
in.
all right.
Hi, everyone.
You might get famous.
I know. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Aisha Gori, and I manage Career Services. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're very fortunate to have a guest who has actually flown in from New York, from Touro College, to work with us. Chaim Shapiro is with us, and he'll be giving us a wonderful session on all of the tips and tricks related to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn 101 is the title. I'll go ahead and let Chaim get started. For those of you who are just joining us, please note that you can share, if you're online, you can share questions through the chat box. We will be recording the session to make it available for those folks who are unable to join us today. And let us know if you want to be asking your question live. Otherwise, we'll just answer the question through the box. Thank you very much. Hi.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. It's actually my pleasure to be here. We actually worked together on a presentation at the National Association of Colleges and Employers a year ago, which got quite a great reception. I appreciate the invitation to come speak here. Really what I try to do in the 1 hour session is really go through some of the most basic things about LinkedIn, especially when it comes to people's profiles, what people need to do in order to get a profile that really works for them. And then I do want to take questions. So either we're going to take the questions through the chat box, but if something comes up and you see it and it doesn't quite make sense, you'd like a little more clarity, please let me know and I'll try to clarify that. That being said, LinkedIn is a very rich, very powerful tool, so it's very difficult, obviously, to get and cover everything about LinkedIn in one session. And one of the things I get a lot after my workshop is, well, you went so fast and you showed us all these things. One of the reasons we tape these kinds of things so people can go back and see it point by point. So the idea is to show you the basics of how to do things. And from that point on, you can either go back and view it, or you can ask questions, or contact your career services office for specific strategies and ideas of how you want to do a particular and different things. So if that makes sense, I just want to get started. Basically, when I first started in career services about 6.5 years ago, LinkedIn was sort of a new kind of thing. People hadn't really heard much about it. And when you got on LinkedIn, you were in a sort of rarefied era to be connected with people. People are like, oh, this person is cutting edge because they're already on LinkedIn, when most other people are not. Unfortunately, it's no longer like that. There's about 250 million people on LinkedIn. When I started, there's about 7.5 million. So nowadays, it ends up becoming much more like another email that somebody doesn't want to see. So when it comes to LinkedIn, the first question I always ask people when they ask me, well, what can LinkedIn do for me? First thing I say is, what do you want LinkedIn to do for you? Because the real answer for what you're going to be doing with it depends on what it is that you want. So if there's something specific that you want, that's sort of the idea that you get. That's how you get a perspective on what you want to do. Now, in general, the profiles are probably some of the most important parts of it. And the focus I'm going to really put on here is the profile. Now, before we get started, one of the misconceptions that I've heard numerous times is a lot of people will think, something, I'm on LinkedIn, it's a day later, it's 2 days later, well, where's my job? And I actually heard somebody named Martin Yates, who does the Knock 'em Dead book series, very good book series on job search, actually said there's no such thing as a LinkedIn fairy. In other words, the fact that you're on LinkedIn doesn't mean something's automatically suddenly going to happen and jobs are going to appear out of the woodwork. You have to use LinkedIn appropriately. And the point of this session is really to show you how to start using LinkedIn appropriately. When I meet with private LinkedIn clients, when they tell them, well, what can LinkedIn do for me? First question I ask them, what do you want LinkedIn to do for you? But before you get started, the most basic thing, and the focus of this particular session is you need to have a profile that really presents you in the most positive, affirmative way. And we're going to really focus on what you need to do in order to get that kind of profile. So all the action here on LinkedIn, this is the home page that you should all pretty much be sharing. It's pretty universal through the system right now. And if you click here on profile, you go to edit profile. This is where you have the opportunity to do all sorts of different things here on LinkedIn. Okay, first thing I think is probably most important and often overlooked, very, very important to have a professional headshot picture up. So you don't want a picture of something you did at a party or something that you did. I've seen some great family shots. Those are more of a Facebook kind of thing. On Twitter, you want your professional headshot that shows you professional way. A lot of places, actually, it's a nice service that some career services offices offer. You offer that?
We just started in
California,
just did it for the first time.
Oh, cool. So headshots are you need a professional headshot. Now, what I've heard, and again, I don't have these specifics on this, but I've heard people are up to 7 times more likely to view your profile if you have a picture than if you don't. And when you think about it, when somebody's looking at a bunch of different profiles and they see a picture, they can relate to that picture much more than they can relate to sort of a blank screen or nothing. So If you have your picture up there, you're in a much better place than other places you've been. I was actually presenting once before, and okay. I was presenting once before, and I was actually I was telling the people about the picture, and somebody raised their hand and said, Chaim, that picture doesn't really represent you well. And what I actually told them was, once you see me in person, no picture can actually do me justice. But
I'm just going to mute our
okay, we're just muting a couple callers.
Muting a couple folks
okay.
On the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so you definitely want to go with a professional headshot. Again, in the worst case scenario, I've seen some people go into the hallway against a white black backdrop on a wall. But if you can get a professional headshot, definitely worth it. And right over here is where you're basically able to edit and upload the pictures that you need. You can upload it off of a picture off of your computer. Again, I advise people away from this kind of Facebook pictures up there. Next is your name. Okay, so you definitely want to have your name. Maiden names, actually, it has a system that allows you to do that. There's a little bit of discussion as to whether you want to put things like this, your master's degrees after it or not. Some people say yes. Obviously, I think you should because it portrays that right there, and it shows up so people see that wherever you are. That's a decision each person needs to make individually. But definitely want to have your full name up there and your actual accurate name. So I wouldn't go with nicknames. I wouldn't go with partial names, but go with your actual full name. And with my name, it's pretty recognizable, I think, because most people don't see the name Chaim that often. But it's part of your brand. You definitely want to make sure that people see that name. Next, this here is the most underutilized part of LinkedIn. This is called your headline, okay? Wherever you show up on LinkedIn, this headline is going to show up with you. When people are doing searches for you, they're going to see these few words here along with your name. So why is that so important? If I'm looking and I'm doing a search and I find 20 people, 30 people, even 10 people, what do I know about them besides I see their picture and I see their name and perhaps their degree? This is your opportunity to sell yourself to people who do not know you. So when I tell people here, you have 130 characters, it's just not a lot, but you really need to put your tagline here that makes you stand out and say, hey, I need to pay attention to Chaim Shapiro because he offers, he presents, he gives these kinds of things. One of the most common questions I get is, well, what should I put there? If I can answer that for you, it wouldn't be appropriate, and you wouldn't want to put it there. The idea is to come up with something that really defines you. You see, what I did, because a lot of what I do is LinkedIn, I put a lot of things about LinkedIn. So when somebody sees me, they know I can offer LinkedIn workshops and be a LinkedIn consultant and training. You also see here that I have a link to a LinkedIn webinar that I did. Now, here's a little trick here. When you actually try to click on this here in someone's profile, it will not click. However, if you show up in an email on LinkedIn through a group, through another email, that will be a clickable link. So if they see that, they can click that link and go to it. So it's a valuable tool if you have a link to put where there's something valuable for you to include that they'll see in the emails. We'll get to embedding rich media content in a few moments as well. Now, I used to have up here innovative educational leadership, which I thought was a little bit of a tagline for myself. Think about what defines you, and even more than what defines you, think about if somebody needed to know something about me in 130 characters or less that made them say, that's my person, that's my guy, that's my girl. What is that? That's what you want to put there. Again, it's not something you can come up with in a few minutes. It's not something you're going to come up with necessarily in a day. You need to think about it. And people change it quite frequently, so there's nothing wrong with that as well. So try to come up with something that really defines you. Okay? I generally think you're better off with having a major metropolitan area. So, for example, here in Chicago, you could say Lincolnwood, you could say Skokie, Evanston, whatever it is. You're probably better off in the greater New York area because you'll have more people will see that when they're looking for searches. Very few are searching for Skokie, and a lot more will be searching for places like Chicago. One of the things I don't like so much here about LinkedIn is they sort of lock you into very specific things for this. So probably for most people here, it'll be psychology or some form of psychology, but they have specific choices. You have to choose one of those choices. But it's important to put that up there because that puts you in the search criteria so people can see what you are, what your profession is. What I'd like to see LinkedIn do eventually is make sure that you can actually choose whatever you want for this. But they're not quite there yet. But at this point, I think it's important to put something that represents you. Again, that will allow you to show up in people's searches and people will see what you're doing. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, just let me know. And I'll keep moving down here. Now, you see over here, this is the number of connections you have. One of the things I advise people ask me, what's the right number of connections to have? Well, if you want to start being able to do searches, and perhaps if we have time, we'll get into the fact about the 3 degrees and how you're able to find people. Generally, to get a good search, you need to get about 150 connections. But the way people work on LinkedIn now is they're looking to see who are the avid networkers. And if they don't see this number 500, 500 is where it maxes out. If they don't see the number 500, they see 130, 435. they don't view you the same way as they view somebody who has that 500 plus. I have like 13,000, but nobody knows anything more than 500. They see I have the 500. That puts me in a different level than somebody who has less than 500. So the first goal, when you can, is to get to that 500 because that puts you on a different footing when it comes to your LinkedIn connections and when people are viewing you when you're on LinkedIn. Okay, so try to get to that. Now, another thing that's very, very important and often overlooked, right over here is your LinkedIn URL. This is going to take you to your personal public profile page, and I hope this works when I click on it. Should have tested this before. This is the public profile page. If somebody actually sees that, clicks that link, it takes you to this page, and you will see on this page, you get to control the information that people see. I'm going to show you how to do that in just 1 second because you actually get to choose what people get to see there. If you go to this edit button, here on the right, you get to choose what the most important things are. When we're talking about LinkedIn or anything online, we talk about above the fold. The things that show up above the line are the most important things. If people have to scroll down, you've lost probably 75% of people. So you want to lead off with your best stuff, and this over here allows you to choose what your best things are. Again, this is going to be different for every person. Some people will have their headline, I recommend, but their skills might be their education, publications. It really depends on the person. The higher up something is, the more likely someone is to actually read it and pay attention to it. So it's definitely very important to make sure that you're focusing your profile on what you want people to see. And I tell people, generally you want to do this, you want to make your profile visible to everyone. I really have no idea why anybody would make their profile visible to no one. That would sort of defeats the whole purpose of LinkedIn, but they do have that as an option. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is go right down here. We can customize to show you on this page. Customize your public profile URL. Now, LinkedIn will default to something that has part of your name. It'll say linkedin.com, PUB, and then part letters of your name and some numbers and some letters. Much better off getting your full name here. And it'll switch to linkedin.com/in and then your full name. Set that as your custom URL. And after that point, whenever you send out that URL, that will be the connection to your particular, to your link to your particular LinkedIn profile. A lot of times people ask me, well, my name is Sam Smith. You know, I can't get Sam Smith. So when I tell people, look, is it Samuel Smith? Is it Samuel M. Smith? Is it Samuel Smith MED? So try to come something that shows CPA, something that will show that you can get your name. But the more personalized, the better. Because when people see that, they want them to see a professional that says your name, reflects you in the most positive and professional way. So you definitely want to try and get your LinkedIn profile. Just a warning that when you change it, the previous link will no longer work. So if you've been giving people the link, LinkedIn.com, if you've been doing it with the letters and the numbers, that will no longer work once you change it. And once you change it, you like it, don't change it back to anything else. Because again, people who have that form of link are not going to be able to connect you in that particular way. So you want to try and make sure that you keep that so that you have that. Okay? So we're going to go back here to the main page. And you'll see here down at the bottom of the box, actually, under my profile page, that I have my LinkedIn here, which is linkedin.com and my name. Okay? And again, one of the things that I do, I use that as a tagline in all my emails. So if somebody wants to contact me or find out more about me, they can. It's not an invasive. I'm not asking them to do anything. If they want to, they can. If they don't, that's fine. So I think it's a very powerful way of getting your information out there. Here on the right is an opportunity to edit your contact info. Here's an opportunity to add some extra things. I have my Gmail account up here, so people who want to contact me can get a hold of me very easily. I get to another strategy about that in a minute. I have my cell phone up here. A lot of people aren't comfortable with that, and that's fine. You don't want to put it up there unless you want people to see it. Again, it's usually your first connections who can see it, but some people aren't comfortable with that. Twitter accounts, I think, are very important to connect. If you're not on Twitter, you need to get on Twitter. One of the things I say, LinkedIn is a very good identification tool. You can find people all over the place. It's not the best engagement tool. Much better engagement tool than LinkedIn is Twitter. So getting on Twitter and connecting your accounts is very, very important. And here you'll see I have a link to my own personal website. You see that over here. I also recommend this very highly, by the way, if you don't have one. You can get it for like $10 a year usually. Just have your own personal website, 4 or 5 pages. You have your resume up there. You actually link your resume up there specifically. It's a good idea, a way to promote yourself. And if I have a personal business, and I have that website up there as well. Okay? And some people will also put up Instant Messenger or whatever else they happen to have over there. I advise against putting up your address. Again, some people do it, but I advise against that. Okay? So after that, we're going to move down in just 1 second to the summary and talk about some of the other things you can add to your LinkedIn profile. Any questions so far? Okay, we're just going to check for questions for a second. Okay, great. Scrapping everything perfectly, so there are no questions at the moment. Okay, again, we're still on the edit profile page here. Next thing, usually I think for most people, they want to include is their summary statement. One of the great things LinkedIn just did is you can move things up and down on your LinkedIn profile very easily now. So you don't need to put the summary first. You can put education first. You can put what sells you the best. Again, above the fold, if you're scrolling down, you've lost a lot of people. So you want to put your best stuff above the fold here. For me, I think that's a summary statement. And to me, again, a lot of people talk about the value of a summary statement on a resume, whether it's good or whether it's bad. I think it's very important to have on a LinkedIn profile because, again, I need buy-in. Why should I be paying attention to you? What do you bring? And for here, you see here, it's sort of a description of the skills that I have that I think describes who I am and what I bring to the table. To me, this is pretty much the same as I have on my new resume, but people need to decide. Generally focus on the skills that make you a valuable employee in the field that you'll be looking for. Okay? Now, you also see here, I put things like this. Some of the other things that I do on the side, again, this makes it a little more possible that somebody will find them. They're looking for searching for people that are LinkedIn data mining or consultants. That'll show up in the searches, and therefore they'll find me. This, I think, is the most important part, and this gets overlooked a lot. I tell people always, always, always put your email into the summary section of your LinkedIn profile, preferably above the fold. Why do I recommend that? Well, if you're talking to somebody who's not a first-degree connection or not part of your groups, you cannot email them on LinkedIn, okay? LinkedIn will charge you $10 to send them what's called an in-mail, okay? Now, look, you can send the in-mail. I haven't had much luck with in-mails, but think of it this way. If I'm looking between 3 or 4 different people as a recruiter, as somebody's looking to hire somebody, and I have to pay $10 to get a hold of Chaim Shapiro, and I can get a hold of Sam Smith for free, I'm going with the free guy. Okay, if you have your email address listed here, they can contact you right through your email address. They don't have to pay that $10. Make it easy for them to find you. Make it easy for them to contact you. Because again, if you make it difficult, the chances of them actually going out and saying, "Hey, I need to pay attention to this person. I need to hire this person," it's pay $10 just to talk to them to find out. Not as likely. Now, one of the other great things they recently added here on LinkedIn is the ability to add what's called rich media content. Okay, so you see here one of my previous LinkedIn webcasts is up here. Couple of interviews I did in different places. That's this little button right over here. You can actually add a link or upload a file. And I'm going to talk about both of those in a second. But the best idea for me is if you take your things and all of your stuff and you upload it to SlideShare, that's the best thing. LinkedIn bought out SlideShare recently. They work very well together, and it gives you the opportunity to get very good previews of your things. Here's a little tip here that I also tell people to do. You'll see right here is my actual resume. But people can see a little preview of my resume because I uploaded the resume document to SlideShare as opposed to uploading the document itself on LinkedIn. People can see it. And by the way, once you click on, I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to go off screen, but if you click on somebody's SlideShare account and they're like, "Oh, Chaim has a great LinkedIn webcast," they see all my other SlideShare, including, by the way, the presentation that we gave last year. I have that up there. So people can see it and say, "Oh, Chaim Shapiro can do multiple things." So I definitely tell people to take advantage of this. Generally, you want to have, again, these are things that really sell you well. So everything you're putting up here is your best professional self. Again, it's something that says, this is the person that's professional who can do great things. Presentations in class that you have, webinars. I've seen some people that have done this very well. They'll take a personal, hire me kind of interview. This is why I'm important. This is why you need to pay attention to me. Look, I always tell people, though, before you put it up, show it to a couple of your friends. Make sure it represents you the way you think it represents you. Because sometimes we're a little bit blind to how we view each other and ourselves. But it's a great way to get yourself out there. Not a lot of people are doing this rich media content yet, so you really can make yourself stand out if you really do this. I think it's very important to put it up there, and trust me, I actually track some of the hits on this. You get significant numbers of people who are looking at these things. Again, where that leads to is another question, but it's important to do it because it sets you out, it sets you apart from everybody else. And in a system of 250 million people, every little thing you can do to make yourself stand out is something that you're doing that's appropriate and positive. Okay? So again, you can put your summary first. That's what I generally recommend, but you can move it down. Some people will have their actual job experience is the next thing, which is what I have. Okay, you can move that up, you can move that down. That's this little button right over here. And here's where you're going to put, I think I moved something there. Okay, yeah, I did. Okay, so let's just move that back. I'd rather have the summary. And now it's going to be stubborn. First time I moved too easily, then I moved on. I'll fix that later. But in any event, here's my work experience. Okay, this talks about the jobs that I've had. I took this right off of my resume. Okay, this is the exact same thing. If you go to my resume, you find the exact same thing up here. Okay, same bullets, saying the exact same things. Now, one of the things that I did when I actually edited this, I made sure to get this logo on here because actually LinkedIn will suggest the companies when you start typing it in. Make sure to get that right, then the logo shows up. If you spell it wrong, you're not going to get the logo of your company up there. And prestige and the fact that you're working for a company is important, so you want to make sure you get the logo right. Plus, the company is selected as well, because their people are presenting themselves professionally. So you definitely want to make sure that you do that. You can add a number of positions. Recommendations we'll get to in a minute. And here's a presentation I think that you'll be very familiar with, Aisha, you gave last year, and people can click on right here and then see that. So in other words, I'm using the rich media content on more than just my summary statement. I'm using it on my jobs as well. Now, I will tell you, when you get down over here, you're getting much, much fewer clicks. I'm getting higher up in my profile. But if I get 1, if I get 2, if I get 5, it's better than somebody not looking at those things at all. So it's a great opportunity to continually sell yourself. And I think it's a good idea to put things there. Again, it makes you stand out. So for most of these jobs, I just use pretty much a standard resume kind of thing and put that in there, and then try to add rich media content that really sells you at that particular job. So this would be things you've done in the professional sense at that particular place. Again, here is actually a PowerPoint presentation. If you've done videos, those kinds of things would be perfect. Perhaps I'll add this little presentation afterwards, that part down there. I might put it a little bit higher, but so those are all good things that you can do. Let's see if I can get this. See, now before it was so easy. Now it doesn't want to do it. Okay, but you keep going down and you add more jobs. Here's some other things that I've added. Again, I get very few clicks on these, but some of the other LinkedIn presentations that I've given. But it's a great way to make your profile look richer and make your profile look a little bit better. Okay, and you've seen I've worked in a lot of places, so not advising that, but let's see if I can fix this. It's trying to annoy me a little bit here. All right, we go a little further down here. Okay, skills and expertise. I think is another very important part here because this is highly searchable, okay? And people will be looking for people with particular skills, and you can put your skills in here, you click the edit button, and you start typing in, I'm just gonna put psychology in here and see what comes up. Okay, well there you go. A whole list of things that you can choose, and you choose from that list and add it to your account. Now, you only wanna put things here that you are proficient in. If you kind of know something, and you kind of like, your brother told you something, that's not the thing to put there. The thing you put there is the 2 things that you are proficient in, and you want people to be able to say and actually say, something, this is the person that knows something about that. Because people do endorse you for those kinds of things. You put up to 50 skills, and I tell them, look, if you have 50 skills that you're proficient in, no reason not to, because you never know which ones will show up. One of the challenges here is this idea of endorsements. I'm going to show you endorsements in just a second here after I click out of this. Certain people can say, something, Chaim Shapiro is an expert in career counseling. You'll see here, if I click on this, it should tell me how many people have actually said that about me. There we go. 718 people, which is a lot, obviously, have said that I know something about career counseling. But that gives me some credibility. You'll see also LinkedIn cuts off after 99, so we don't know if that's more than 99. But you can see the people that have endorsed you. They can see the people that have endorsed you. And one of the things that does, obviously, is give some credibility to your claim that you actually know something. Okay, now if somebody endorses you that you don't want to have endorsement, if you go back here to edit, you can manage your endorsements and take off what you don't want or not display your endorsements or take off a particular person for whatever particular reason. Chances are if somebody's putting something that you don't want there, you probably won't want to be connected to them, but it does come up on occasion. Now, the endorsements themselves, I think, was a good idea by LinkedIn that wasn't actually done as well as they should have done it. I think they were trying to compete with Clout and Cred, some of those websites that will show expertise in particular things. Because and it gives you this opportunity to really endorse people that you don't really know. Does Chaim Shapiro know about being a basketball coach? And I actually got that once. Like, I love basketball, go Bulls, the Chicagoan, but not a basketball coach. And somebody endorsed me for basketball. I did not show that on my profile, by the way, because again, I don't have that skill. But it's gotten a little bit ridiculous when it comes to that, because again, people are able to endorse you for whatever they like. And the funny thing is, people look at my profile, career counseling, that makes a lot of sense, resume writing, but I have LinkedIn down here way towards the bottom, and the reason it doesn't come up here, and I got to find it here, but the reason it doesn't come up higher is because I have fewer people that have endorsed me for it. But the lower it is on my profile, the less likely they are to endorse me for it, and LinkedIn doesn't let you move them. Once you actually start having people endorsing you, it goes in order of the number of endorsements that you have, so you can't change it. So it's a system that makes a lot of sense. I understand why they did it. I think it needs some work. We'll be able to move things around, request certain endorsements. Another important thing I always tell people, although people are very free to give endorsements, do not endorse somebody unless you will stand behind that endorsement. If I call you up and say, you endorse Chaim Shapiro as a career counselor, tell me about that. What can he do? I want you to answer that question very quickly. Okay, I want you to be able to answer that question very specifically and tell me, because you're endorsing me, everything you're saying online, I want you to be able to stand behind what you said right there, okay? So that's the opportunity to actually endorse other people. And another thing I tell people to do is to monetize their endorsements. And what that means is if somebody endorses you, Chaim Shapiro on LinkedIn, I take that opportunity to say, well, thank you very much for your endorsement. When it comes to LinkedIn, I appreciate it. How can I use LinkedIn, my skills on LinkedIn to help you? And lead to potential clients. Because I'll say, oh, so I was looking for somebody to help me with LinkedIn. And again, whatever your area of expertise is, if somebody is taking the time to endorse you, 95% of the time they just click the button, but the 5% of the time you're taking an opportunity to do something productive from a system that really is not that productive. Now, much more important than these actual these skills and the recommendation, and the endorsements of the recommendations, which is down here. I tell people you want to try and get actual recommendations. This is something that somebody's actually going to write. You'll see I had 23, which is a lot. You want to get above 3 or 5 is really starts when you get to a good place. People who can actually speak about you, and again, it's not your brother, your sister, your cousin, your roommate, but somebody, a professor, somebody you worked for, somebody who was a mentor, to write something about you. And this time they're actually taking the time to write specifically, Chaim Shapiro has these particular skills. This is what he did for me. This is why you can trust him. These are much, much more powerful and much, much more important in my mind than the endorsements, which will become pretty vain and empty. So I tell people, again, you can actually make a request to be recommended. Click this little button right over here, and you can actually send out emails based on your job to the people that you want. Personalize this to each person. I don't send out mass emails here, because mass emails in general are a bad idea on LinkedIn. But say, if I were to reach out to Aisha, say, thank you for having me. If you don't mind, I'd like to write something on my profile about recommendations for the work that I've done here, that kind of thing. And those are the kind of things that work well. And it means a lot, actually, because when people actually produce a PDF version of an account, that actually shows up with it. So it's actually very, very important and very, very powerful. Okay? Continue to go down the profile here. If you have any particular projects that you've done, here's the presentation that Aisha and I did. And I'm not sure why you're not on here, actually. Was on here before. But anyway, presentations you can put up here. I have one of my webcasts up here. It's another way to sell yourself. Every person is going to have different things to put here depending on what their expertise is and what they've done. So anything you do to add to make this more rich is important. I have my education down here as well. You can add links to your education, presentations, course grades, files, and anything like that. Again, things that make you to show you up and show the work that you've done in a positive way. And again, you want to make sure that you actually hook up to your actual campus and get the campus correct. Again, there is certain prestige and honor to the fact that you have those particular campuses. Okay, if you have any publications, you can add that. Organizations, there's NACE. And one of the things here that they're just starting to do is opportunities you're looking for in the nonprofit realm. Now, LinkedIn is looking to make like a database of people who are looking for volunteer opportunities, and you see that I've been willing to join a nonprofit board. They're hoping to have people that will get the opportunity, especially students, by the way, to volunteer. It's a great opportunity to build your resume. So potentially, if you go over here, it's a little bit, it's not quite where it needs to be yet, because you just have 2 things here, but eventually they'll get this right, and you'll be able to include all those things that are important to you. Causes you care about, stay away from things that are political, okay? You can be very passionate about something political, and there are people who are very passionate about the exact opposite thing. So, if you're passionate about, something that has to do, charitable work or helping people get jobs or, help mentoring kids, that's the kind of thing you would put there, not something that would be political, rah, 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 whatever party it is not the kind of thing you want to put there, okay? And that's tell people here, when it comes to interests, these are all clickable, so you can put a bunch of these things here, and I tell people, put different things here because, again, it helps things show up. Let's just show you what happens when you actually click this. As this goes here, it'll take you to a list of other people that have those skills. Okay, so you'll see, by the way, if someone does a search for those kinds of things, these are some of the things that will show up. And we'll see if we have a chance, we'll get into searches a little bit later. Okay, so that's definitely things that I would add and put things there. Let people, again, the richer you can be there, I think the better. Okay, and the more things you can include, the better. Any questions at this point? Let's stop for a moment and check for questions. Which basically means I need a drink break, by the way. No?
Nope, no.
Great.
If you do, just feel free to use the chat box. We'll be happy to address them right there.
Okay. Next thing we'll go to here. Now here on the side, you'll see some other things that potentially could be important. And again, it depends on the person. If you have language skills besides English, that's an important thing to include. Test scores, I'm not a big believer of. If you took like an actuarial exam and you scored a 9, that's, I mean, I got 105 on my, on my, what do you call it, psychology midterm. It's not what you're putting there, okay? Courses can be important. Now, what I usually say about courses, if you're taking a standard kind of course program that leads to a degree like a history, putting American history is really not going to say anything. If you did something like I did, like an educational administration, where there's organizational theory, which is a little bit different than those things, that might make sense with that. There, if you have any patents, you're much more fortunate than me, and certifications are another thing that people can put up there. Probably very important for this particular constituency. They're actually talking about actually having MOOC certifications up here eventually. They're talking about being able to add that, so you'll be able to say that you have a certain amount of knowledge or credibility when it comes to those particular things. So that's basically the quick half-hour version of the profile and how to do the profile. Okay? If anyone has any questions on that, I want to move into some of the other things that you can start doing here with the actual, when you actually start using LinkedIn. Okay, so that we started here with the profile button. The next button here is the network button. And really we get to the important things on LinkedIn. It's all about connections. This is a brand new CRM they added here on LinkedIn. And this is an incredibly, incredibly powerful tool. I'll get to this in just a moment here. But you'll see here, this is synced with my Gmail, with my LinkedIn, with Outlook. And what I have here is when I click on this person, let me just pick somebody that I don't show you. Okay, you mind if can I just, okay. So you'll see here when I click on her profile, this gives me a history of the emails that I sent her. So there's emails about this workshop, about our presentation we did, all of when we connected. Now I can also add a note to her profile saying, we worked together, corresponded on this. I connected to her for this particular reason. I can set up a reminder saying, I need to contact her, and again, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. I don't like this. I like to be able to have a calendar up here and say, hey, I want to contact her on March 13th. I don't know why it doesn't let you do that, but it doesn't. How you met is a very, very important tool because, when you meet a lot of people at conferences, right after you get that card, send them a LinkedIn invitation, put that right there because when you reach out to them again, when you go to a lot of conferences, you just don't remember what year, something you talked about, conversations you had, presentations you went to together. Because when you talk to somebody, you say, hey, you remember we went to that presentation at the NACE conference in 2012, we talked about this. It just knocks their socks off. They have no idea how you do that. By the way, this information is visible to you only. Okay, so nobody else is going to see the notes that you put on anybody, okay, unless you're going to be showing something like this. So you get to keep your personal notes. It's a great, great way to keep your information in one place and have your contact relationship management. So when you reach out to somebody, you got all your stuff in one place. Tags are also very important. This used to actually cost money to have tags, but you can actually tag a person and have an unlimited number of tags, I believe. And what it does is if you're actually searching your contacts, you can search your contacts by tags. So I'll just show you here. Why didn't that work? I'll filter by contact, that's why. Okay. Go to contacts, filter by tag, and I'm just going to show you one of these. Come on. Okay, so you just see, I was looking for a literary agent at one point, and there you can see I have all the literary agents that I was reaching out to. And again, I'm not going to show you that, but if I look at Ted Weinstein, you'll see the notes that I had about him and the conversations I had in the emails and all those other things. It's a great way to keep everybody in one place. And by the way, it's a great way if you want to send an email to all of them. You select all up to I think 25 at a time and send them an email. Again, I'm much more into the idea of sending personalized emails. When you send me mass emails, it gets lost. But it's a great way to keep all you people in one place. One of the things I keep here is, for example, my LinkedIn clients. So every once in a while I'll say, well, how's it going? What's happened since the last time we talked? Can I help you with something else? Those kinds of things. So very, very powerful tool. And again, it's a new tool, and it's a way that I think the future of LinkedIn, because it really provides an opportunity to make the connection part of LinkedIn much more real, much more connected. Now, just to show you the way you set this up here, if you go to this little settings over here, it'll allow you to sync your LinkedIn, Gmail, Yahoo. It doesn't allow AOL. By the way, I actually switched from AOL to Gmail because of this, because it does not sync with AOL, and I actually had to upload my AOL to Outlook to get it to sync, get the other stuff back, but it just wasn't worth going forward. Your iPhone, notes, card munch, those kinds of things, and it's a very, very powerful way to connect to people. Now, if you see the connection to people, generally the way it works on LinkedIn is people you're connected to work within 3 degrees. Let's just put in counting here, and we'll see. I spelled that wrong, I know, but see what comes up. Okay, did I mean accounting? I did. Oh, there we go. It's actually a good page. You see this person here is a 2nd degree, which means I'm connected to somebody that he's connected to. And then I clicked out of it. See, it was better when it wasn't spelled right. This means this person is connecting to somebody that I'm connected to. I can send a connection request, or I can send to get introduced to somebody that I know. We could talk about that a little bit later. I'd rather avoid that for now. But the idea is if you get introduced to somebody, make sure it's somebody you know that's connecting you to somebody he or she really knows. I've gotten, hey, can you connect me to? I don't really know that guy. I'll send it on, but you're not looking good. Okay. Here's a third degree. Now, the challenge with third degree is LinkedIn did this a couple of years ago. Instead of showing me this full person's name, it just shows me their first name and their last, the first initial of their last name. Not very helpful because obviously I can't find out more than them. But let's see if this trick works. If you click on this person's name, and this works about 50% of the time, so we're taking a risk here. There we go. You have people also viewed. Very often, that person, check sure you know the name, will show up on one of these people also viewed, and it will give you the full name. Let's see if you can find it. See him? First, there you go. There we go. So we got him. And just to show you what I can do now, first one, I can go right here now. I save him to my contacts. And I can take this and put a note in here, put his full name in here. You know, he's a third degree. I have all his information. It's in a note. So if I go back to him, I have all that information on him right now. And I found somebody that otherwise wouldn't be able to get it. Now, you won't be able to send them an email because I don't think he has that information there. But this is a great way, you know, how you met, I found him through somebody's name. It's a great little trick for finding people that aren't second degree. Again, it works depending on the people, 30, 40, 50% of the time. But it's a great opportunity to find people that you otherwise wouldn't be able to find. Now, some people, a question I always get is you can actually turn off this people also viewed. And it sounds a little selfish when I say this, but I actually recommend that people turn that off. Because if I'm looking at your profile, again, I'm looking at people who are LinkedIn experts, and they say, oh, Chaim Shapiro, you've done this. I'm like, oh, here's another person that's done great things. That takes them away from my page. It's great for them, but it's not good for me. And actually, in your profile settings, you can actually turn that off. So that when somebody's actually looking at your, account right here, you can actually hide that. I definitely recommend that. Again, it sounds a little bit selfish, but if you're looking to promote yourself and you know somebody else is going off in a different direction and finding somebody else based on your account, you haven't helped yourself, and obviously you've taken something away from what you're able to do. Okay, another great tool they added here on the network is, well, let's say if I wanted to say somebody that I'm connected to is an associate account, well, he just got a new job. So I could actually send them a quick congratulations. Now, it gives you this, congrats. Never do that. Write a personal note and say, dear Mr. Hack, congratulations. I wish you the best of luck on your position. Again, now, what I would normally do first is go through his account and see if I have any history with him and mention that particular history in the congratulation itself. Okay, so you see I've actually got some things that I work with him. So I would use that in the connection, go back here, and then send them a congratulations that's very specific to what it is. The other thing it shows here is birthdays. Not as important on here as it is on Facebook. I mean, you could say happy birthday to somebody, but they're not really looking for that. It also shows people, this is an interesting one. I've never seen that before, Superman there. But it also shows birthdays, as you see here, and also shows work anniversaries. Work anniversaries are a great way to say congratulations for somebody. Somebody's been working 5, 6 years at a place, you send them a quick congratulations again. Looking at your notes and seeing what connection you've had with them, very, very, very powerful way for you to reach out to them and say congratulations and keep that relationship going. Okay? And by the way, you see up here, this is where your mail is. Just so you see, somebody sent me a request. One of the questions I get frequently is, should I accept requests from everybody or just people that I relatively know? And people need to make decisions about this, okay? Most people, the idea of LinkedIn is to be people that you know that are part of your trusted network. Very few people actually do that, but there's sort of the two extremes, people I only know really, really well, and people like me will accept from anybody that appears like they're a real person. I don't take from companies. And the reason I do that is I do LinkedIn data mining for companies. And I have a free research database that very few people have. And I'd be able to give them names like recruiters that otherwise they wouldn't be able to have. So I'm willing to do that. For most people, if they sound real, it's somebody's connection, you know how they're connected, you know where they're working, it makes sense to accept those connections and you accept that connection right here. They also moved your actual inbox to a different part. Just be a little bit easier to find this with all your inboxes over here. See, the invitations that are pending. Usually, actually, you're able to see your sent invitations all in one place. They took that down, unfortunately. But you can actually do searches based on emails you sent. So your emails all stay there, and it's a good way to keep track of what you're doing. Again, if you're looking for somebody, you don't know the name. I emailed somebody about LinkedIn, but I don't remember who it was, because if you have it, you have it in their information. You do that search over here. Again, this might be too broad of a search, but what's the rule? Never do something. Okay, there we go. Invitation connect. Yeah, it's too broad of a search. But in other words, you can find things that are more specific and be able to connect them on those kinds of things, particularly. Okay, any questions? Another drink break. No? Okay, great. Okay, now another very powerful thing that's often not used as appropriately or as often as it should be is this thing a little down here. You can actually see who has viewed your profile. Now, if you don't have a paid account, it'll show you 5 people. Generally, this will be the last 5 people who viewed your account. It doesn't always default that way. That's a standard default is the last 5 people. So you'll see here, for example, if I want to connect to this person or look at their profile and find out, well, why did they look at my profile? You send them a message, thank you for viewing my profile. I actually did that yesterday. Somebody that I had connected with months before, hadn't had anything to do with, took a look at my profile, and as soon as this speeds up, if it speeds up, oh, my inbox is not available. Oh, here it is. So she looked at my profile yesterday, and I just sent her a message. Thanks for viewing my profile. Quick little thing. Please let me know if there's any way I can help you. And again, she hasn't responded, but what's the worst case scenario? She looked at my profile. She responds to me and says, hey, I need somebody to do X, Y, and Z. Then, I'm the person to do it. It's all about being the kind of person who makes those connections, And especially when you have this thing where connections, when the more people you're connected to, the more people you can see, you never know who's going to be the connection that opens the door either for you or if you're able to open up for other people. Let's get back to what we were doing there before. You'll see here that I had 7 people view my profile in the past day. And again, it only shows me 5, which is usually enough if you check it quickly enough. Here is something that people do not look at frequently enough. These are how many people have viewed your profile in the last 90 days. And it shows you a little track. And by the way, you can see here, right around the holidays, really dropped off. And that happens a lot because people aren't in the profession, not working. I'm not sure what happened over here, but over here is a little bit higher in the middle of the year, those kinds of things when you're doing different things. And you'll see that here, this shows me how many times I appeared in searches on LinkedIn. When somebody put in whatever search LinkedIn, Chaim Shapiro, I showed up 5,827 times. Okay? One of the ways I know that my LinkedIn profile is actually working is this number. Good number, when you're talking about real numbers, is about 10%. If 10% of the people who are viewing your profile are clicking through, that means they are seeing something there that is making them say, hey, I need to pay attention to this person. Okay? So if this was 5,827, this was 50, there's something wrong with my profile more likely than not because people are not viewing my profile. When it's above 10%, generally you're doing something right. Okay? And another thing that got a little bit annoying here on LinkedIn is they took off the ability to see people's recent status updates. And I really like this tool. You're actually able to see the updates the person had, who they connected to, what they were saying about themselves. And the reason that was important is I want to see, because first of all, a way to present yourself in the best possible way, but see what other people are doing. You can still see your most recent updates, but you can't see anyone else's necessarily unless you happen to look. So you see here's the most recent update, and here's some people who commented on that particular update. It's unfortunate because the people really need to be there at the time and see it and comment on it, because once it scrolls down, they miss it. What I tell people to do also, by the way, you can also see what times are working, what kind of things are working right over here. It tells you how many views you've had. These are second and third degree people, how many people liked it and those kinds of things. If you track that over time, because it shows you age and it loads us very slow, a little quicker. But you see this one was 306, and you see what time I did it and how often and the subject. If you track that over time, you get a good idea of some of the better times that you should be posting and times that aren't so good. Again, I'm very upset that LinkedIn took that away because I thought it was a very powerful way to engage with people and a very powerful way to promote yourself. But it is what it is, and I still tell people try to update something once a week, at least maybe twice a week. Another little trick here, by the way, you see here that I have a link in here. Very important to include a link in your actual update, because when you do that, if you're part of groups, you can actually cross-post that to groups. If you do not have a link, you cannot cross-post it to groups. So if you have a link, you can actually say, okay, well, CareerServe chat would be of interest to the National Association of Colleges and Employers group. If I wanted to, I just type the name of the group here, and it'll start showing up here. I can click that and actually cross-post that into 7, 8, 10 different groups at one time. So if you're going to be posting something, again, if you have something valuable, again, not just posting a link to post a link, but posting a link that actually does something valuable for you. Okay? See any questions? I'm explaining it perfectly? Usually I get some kind of response, but I got nothing. Okay.
They're all on mute.
They're all on mute. Okay. Well, we can type, I guess, right?
Nope.
No questions? Okay, great. Anybody there?
Yeah, they're there.
Oh, okay. It's one of the things you never know on one of these things, whether anybody's actually there. Okay. So I'll show you a couple other things here just in terms of advanced search features. Now, if you're looking for a job, this is a new advanced search, and this is relatively new in terms of how they do this. You can do searches based on locations, industries, and those things. here are the connections of the people that are going to show up. I tell them, click the third degree because you have that little trick now as to how to find out who this is. It leaves it out because it's usually not that powerful, but now that you know how to find them, you might as well include that. So if you're looking for somebody who lives, again, and this is why I wanted you to put the greater Chicago area as opposed to, Skokie, because very few people are probably putting Skokie in there when they're searching that. They're putting in greater Chicago, and you won't show up necessarily if you have Skokie there. And you're looking at a particular industry, accounting, let's say if it has psychology here, or something similar to it. Keyword search, title search. Here's another very powerful one. You're looking at a particular company. I'm just going to, it's not going to have something in psychology. If I put Price Waterhouse right there, and I can do a search. And also I can do a search, by the way, on location. I can narrow it into by zip code as well. And let's just see what comes up here. Okay, so these are potential people that I might want to reach out to and find out if I want to connect with them and see if there are people that can potentially help me get into a particular place. It shows you who the shared connection is. So, for example, I want to reach out to him and say, hey, Gabriel, this potentially, do you know Joe well? Can you connect me to Joe? And that's much better than reaching out to Joe. Specifically, worst case scenario, you can send a connection request right to Joe. Now, I want to make this point here when you send a connection request. Let's see what's going to do here. Let's see. I'm supposed to actually do it this way because that will actually automatically send a request in a blank one. If you go here and click connect, much better, and you could say friend or whatever it is. Make something very specific here. My name is Chaim Shapiro. I'm Assistant Director of Career Services at Toll College. I'm reaching out to you because. Give me the reason. Tell me why you're interested in me. It's not just a blank thing. Had I accidentally pushed that other connect button, it would have sent a blank generic, which is a mistake all of us make. But the more specific one is better. Okay, so you don't want to click on that button. Much better to click on and find out, send something specific to that person and connect to them. Again, if you can use this person in between because you know them well and they know Joe well, that's a very important thing to do. Okay, and this is a great way to do search for different things. They added actually this great alumni feature recently here. So if you go to find alumni, you can actually search the alumni at your particular college. Now, I have University of California, Riverside. You can actually change the school here to any school you want. I'm just going to keep this at UC Riverside now because that's just where it is. But I can search by where they live. Let's say we're looking for CPS Chicago on here. Well, Los Angeles, obviously, because, if you look, see more CPS Chicago on here. Let's see, but here's Great Chicago. There we go. That's 78, so I clicked on Chicago. And I'm interested for somebody who's working in education or consulting. I can click on all those, and then it'll give me a list down here of those people. Again, here's a third degree. What do? Click on their profile. Okay, and try to find out their name if you want to find them out. That's important. But this is a great, great way to connect to people from your institution, and also here, by the way, it also shows you, where what they studied in terms of their majors. So you can say, hey, we were both, education majors at UC Riverside around the same time. Here's where it shows the skills. This is why I'm really sad they changed the skills. You used to be able to check skills at companies and places and really see which skills are valuable, which is if you're looking to work in a particular company and you see the top 6 skills their employers are listing and you have those skills, perfect time to put that in your profile, but you really can't do that anymore. But still, it's a very, very powerful way to get a hold of people. I'm looking for somebody who's a public speaker. Again, that'll show me that kind of thing. So this is a very, very powerful tool. And again, you're not stuck to your own campus. It'll default to your last campus, but you can change the school here to any school that it has by name. And I put Touro College in here, that will show up. It doesn't show up on mine because I am not a Touro alum. I just work at Touro. And then you can do the same kind of search there. Okay? So a very powerful way for connecting to people, a very powerful way for connecting to people that have some connection to you. Okay? So the LinkedIn search is another thing I would definitely recommend that people do. Okay, I'm going to try a job search here. Okay, now I'm just going to do, well, you see I was looking for a popcorn maker, I guess. Showed up. Yeah. That's one of the advantages. You use your own Google Chrome. Yeah, my popcorn maker broke, so there we go. So, but that's Google Chrome's automatic, by the way. I guess there could be worse things up there. But anyway, if I put in accounting here, and by the way, I choose accounting because I work with largely with accounting students in Touro. Okay, and I'm searching for jobs. This is going to give me a list of jobs. Now, I can set this by zip code, by area, those things. Here's the important thing. If I'm looking for a job, for example, at Ernst & Young, this tells me how many people in my network work at Ernst & Young, and potentially, again, that's a number that's a little too big to deal with. But potentially, I can look that up and say, hey, let's see if one of them could help me get in there. Now, if I look down here, here's 7 connections. I tried this right before. This is the one I want to see here. You see here, if I was interested in this company, I have one connection that's connected directly to the person who posted this job. And I can go say, Grace, You know, we met, again, I have my notes on her. We met at this conference. We talked about this presentation. Can you please introduce me to Tanya, and we'll talk about the appropriate how good I would be for that particular job. Very, very powerful way of making connections. So if you have that one connection to somebody who posted the job, there's nothing better than that, because you turn a cold lead into a very, very warm lead. Okay? So I definitely recommend you do that. Again, having a bigger network will give you more opportunities like that. The more people you're connected to, obviously, the more people and more opportunities you have for things like that. So again, if you get above 500, you'll show up and much more nicely. But in addition to that, you have a chance of showing up with the kind of people that can actually make a difference in your life. And again, one of the things I always point out, you could be that connection for somebody else. And that's a very valuable thing. And I believe it's sort of karma when it comes to these things. If you help other people, people start helping you, and you get a reputation for being the person that's a networker and does things. It definitely pays off long term. And in the worst case scenario, you help somebody else out. You know, it can't hurt. You know, I always tell people the best time to build your networking capital is before you need it and when you need it. If you're starting to build your networking capital and you actually need something, you're way, way behind the game. Okay? So that's basically the idea of how you look for jobs. Now, one of the things I tell people, we talked about Twitter basically before, is I tell people what you want to do is identify on LinkedIn and engage on Twitter. You can do searches for people via LinkedIn and find a lot of people. And let's take a look at Grace, first connection with her. I can actually search for connections here. So if she was somebody that I was interested in and I wanted to put in a search term here, again, we don't have time to go through it specifically. I can put in accounting, find people that she's connected to. If she's a leader, an industry leader, chances are she'll be connected to some of the industry leaders, okay? And then potentially I can say, oh, well, let me find out about Nancy Richmond again. Find out more about her. But I'm connected to her, but if I wasn't, I'd say, okay, well, how can I connect to Nancy Richmond? Do I have someone I'm connected to? What connection do I have? I don't have a good connection to her. Then I would look down here on the contact info to see if she has and she doesn't, but if she had a Twitter account, next thing I would do is go on Twitter, look her up. Because, for example, when I have somebody here on Twitter, I can actually connect to them and talk to them about things that are of interest to them. You know, I'm a huge Cubs fan, and I guess I don't know if anyone here is from Chicago here today, but if I see somebody and I'm interested in them, I can follow their posts. All you need to do is follow a particular person. That post will come up. You can search for them specifically and see all their posts. And the person posts, I can't wait for the baseball season to start, and the Cubs are going to win the World Series this year. I just got the perfect, I say that every year. I've been 36 years of predicting it. One of my friends from St. Louis, a Cardinal fan, is like, yeah, you're perfectly wrong. But, you say it every year. But here's an opportunity to reach out to that person and say, okay, you know what, I'm also a huge Cubs fan. But now you've built a relationship. You've engaged them in something that isn't, hey, can I have a job? I also joke around, like, I'm a big fan of the movie Princess Bride. You find a Princess Bride fan, they're posting something about that. There's your opportunity. You walk in and you found an opportunity to engage them. One thing that I've added to this, and it's one of the things that I've actually coined, is identify on LinkedIn and engage on Twitter. And one of the things you can also do in addition to that is if you get that opportunity and you're in the same city, meet them for coffee. Nothing is, at least a phone call for not, because, the worst case scenario, again, you built a relationship. Put that in your notes. I met them for coffee. I spoke with her today for 15 minutes. We talked about this, that, and the other thing. When you have that, and it will stay in one place on LinkedIn, and you'll have that information. If you reach out to them again in the future, you'll remember that. And, I know sometimes the people, when you're sort of beginning and you're not connected to a lot of people, you sort of remember things. But after a while, you start building these relationships, and you don't remember those things. So it's very, very important to have that information done. So when you reach out to them again, you'll have that information. Now, a couple of things I want to point out before I conclude. I'm going to see if there's any questions about any functionality that people want to show me. A couple of mistakes that I see that people make is anything you post anywhere online, anywhere. I don't care if it's Snapchat, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. That never goes away, ever. So never say anything that you don't want to have, as I like to say, your grandmother to see. Or if you're not ready for that to be the headline in the New York Times, do not post it anywhere. I don't care what privacy settings you have, just don't do it, because those things never really go away. I'm willing to bet in 15, 20 years there'll be a Senate race or a presidential race, and they'll find something silly as somebody said on Twitter when they were 20 years old, saying, hey, we can elect this person, look what he or she said. So you have to be very, very careful with that. Make sure, especially when it comes to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is all about professional networking. There is some room. I have pictures of my daughter on Facebook, and my daughter went rock climbing in California. I got all that stuff. That's fine for that as long as it's appropriate. That doesn't really belong on LinkedIn. That kind of stuff is stuff for Facebook. When it comes to Twitter, I usually try to keep like about an 80-20 rule, where 80% of the stuff is professional stuff and related to the field, and 20% of the stuff, my daughter did this, and we're going on a family vacation. But what's that? So I generally advise one Twitter account, unless, if a person really wants to get into a lot of separate stuff, or they're doing a lot of silly stuff, not stuff that will be negative, and you want to completely divorce that from your LinkedIn and from the professional side. Some people do that. So if you're doing a lot of joke stuff, yeah, that might make sense. Otherwise, I try to keep to the 80-20. And again, personal updates, nothing offensive. Again, I advise people, I know a lot of times it's very easy to get pulled into political fights. We're a very divisive nation at this point. Try to stay away from that because it stays there. And there are people on the other side who really care about these things. They'll say, oh, Chaim Shapiro said whatever it is he said. I don't want to have anything to do with it because I don't believe anybody. Again, whatever side you're on, those kinds of things happen. You can be very careful about that. Okay? So, look, the idea really now is when they talk about what does LinkedIn, what can LinkedIn do for you? The question you need to ask yourself is, what do you want LinkedIn to do for you? But regardless of what you want LinkedIn to do for you, you need to have a winning profile. You need to have that profile picture. You need to have a great headline. You need to make sure that your entry into the forum, your entry into the discussion is one that's positive. People say, hey, that's a professional person that I know I can trust, that I can reach out to, and I can feel comfortable either working at my company, hiring as a consultant, coming to speak. So it's all about your professional persona. And it's all about keeping those positive professional persona. If you don't have the picture, that's the first thing I would do, and then work on getting your profile. Now, another question I often get is, if I don't have a professional profile yet, should I start reaching out to people? And I generally advise you, try to stay away from that because, again, passing around a bad thing is, it's all PR is good PR. It doesn't really work in this case because, again, people are looking for you amongst a group of 250 million. So if you don't have all positive things, I would stay away from trying to post those things. Wait till you get your profile picture. Wait till you get your headline. Just use the stuff off your resume that you got approved through Career Services. Put that out there, and you got something to start with. Again, try to get to where you have 500 connections because then people see it. It doesn't matter if you have 500 or 5,000 or 50,000, which they don't let you have, actually. But if you have 500, no one will know it, and you also look like you're an avid networker, so you want to get there. And then again, you want to reach out to people and be nice. People are asking you something. Respond nicely, even if it's, again, not spam or someone saying, go buy a Presto popcorn machine. But if someone's saying something nice, I want to talk to you about a particular business opportunity, and I saw that you're working on LinkedIn, respond to them nicely, because those reputations do get around. It's not like Amazon, I guess, where you put your people's ratings, but it's important to build a professional persona, a reputation that people like, and a reputation that people respect. I just want to pause one time here. If there's any last second questions, we've got about 3 minutes here.
This is your chance if you want to throw in a question in the chat box or send us let us know and we can unmute you since we've got you muted. Any questions?
So if you don't have any questions, I'll just say, by the way, I work in Career Services, and I actually host a Twitter chat for Career Services chat. It's actually Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And if somebody wants to send me an email with a quick LinkedIn question, I'm always happy to answer quick kind of questions. Obviously, I work with people long term, but quick questions I'm always happy to answer. You send me something on Twitter or you hit me on Gmail. I'm happy to answer those kinds of quick questions. And it's like, people really, it's important to work with your Career Services staff in terms of making sure that everything that you do is professional. So with that, I said thanks for the opportunity. This was very nice. Nice to see you again, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for joining us online, and we hope this was beneficial. All right, and with that, we will say have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much.